This episode is brought to you by North Texas Honda Dealers. North Texas Honda Dealers, they're here to help.
He has time, launches it to the end zone. Touchdown! Terrence Williams!
The throw goes to the right side for Crabtree. It's caught. He he's the one down, Red Raider.
Pussy up the 10. Pussy up the right sideline.
Yeah, he's got to go. He's tackled. Sam Houston wins it. The Bearcats capture their first FCS championship.
Hello, welcome to the Republic of Football. I'm your host, the college editor here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, Ishmael Johnson. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday, August 16th, in studio with staff writer Carter Yates. How you doing, bud?
You know, mid-August right now, football season is so close.
So close.
I can just kind of feel it in my bones, and that
Yeah.
excitement starting to build up for me there. I think this is our last completely free weekend
That's a good point, yeah, because we start week 0.
of no high school, and then the all-important week 0.
Yeah. It
Weekend after that.
Golly,
we're almost there. We're almost there.
We're very close, very close. And somebody who definitely knows how close we are is Mallory Hartley. Everyone's favorite Malpow. How you doing, Mallory?
I'm good. I definitely woke up in a cold sweat last night and was like, oh my God, this is our last free week of no football whatsoever, which is exciting. Don't get me wrong, I'm very excited, but
Yeah.
I am very stressed
She
about
had
it.
flashes
so.
of UTEP Jacksonville State in her jersey.
Gavin Hardison, no!
Not yet. Yeah. It's kind of a split responsibility time for me because I'm literally in the full throes of the basketball magazine.
you're chugging away on that.
I'm about to be on the road a little bit next week for some take care of some stuff.
Safeties.
So it'll be that's kind of a split responsibilities right now, and that'll be kind of how usually my football seasons start until through September, basically all the way to October. So
I've always been so
Yeah.
curious, how do you balance that? How do you just
you don't?
I admire you for it because you put together this entire basketball magazine during football season.
Yeah.
That is not an easy job to do.
Yeah.
So, for those of you that don't know, Ish actually does everything here. He does high school, college football, and college basketball. So
It's one thing to put together
he
a
rocks.
football magazine in spring when everything's kind of on a downturn, and kind of except for this year. I know Texan Live had a lot of stuff going on too, with playoffs and other sports going on. But it's one thing to put together a football magazine when everything's kind of in a lull, as opposed to putting together this. So it's a challenge, but it gets done. We do have some news to talk about. We'll get to a little bit of TCU and SMU kind of. I don't want to say officially announcing some news because they haven't officially announced it, but it's been reported, and our own Mike Craven kind of confirmed some news about the Iron Skillet, or the future of the Iron Skillet, I should say. After that, we'll be talking a little bit about some camp news, or kind of lack thereof, when it comes to some certain teams and who's going to be stepping behind center in some situations. And then we'll get to, in the latter half, the bulk of this episode will be discussing our first power poll. Mike Craven put that out today. Go check that out on TexasFootball.com. The first official publishing of this year's power poll. For those of you that forgot, every week Mike Craven will be putting out his rankings for every FBS program in the state. And, of course, it's meant to be a power poll. It's meant to be kind of a fluctuating thing week to week, depending on results, depending on the context of some results, right? We'll have some teams that are 0-2, 0-3 still probably not be at the bottom because maybe they lost to teams that they quote-unquote were supposed to lose to, or they're playing teams way above their caliber, or they played them really close, things like that. So we'll be discussing some teams that maybe, in our opinion, could rise by the end of the season, and just overall thoughts on that. But first, I mentioned TCU SMU. It was leaked, first reported by Brett McMurphy. Craven did confirm this on his end. The Iron Skillet after 2025 looks like it will be no more.
Boo.
The crosstown rivalry
stinks.
between Dallas and Fort Worth in major college football. I mean, from what I'm reading more, it looks like this is more on the TCU end. From what I've read more into this, I think Joe Hoyt put out a couple tweets, or I should say Billy Embody put out a couple tweets, the SMU writer at On3, about Rhett Lashley talking about the rivalry in the offseason. And he kind of talked about, Rhett Lashley was very adamant, and again, it's not the coaches that make these decisions as opposed to administration, but he was very adamant, like, we'll play them as long as they want to play us. Mm-hmm. And from Sonny Dykes, I'm assuming he was speaking more on behalf of the administration. His quotes over the offseason about the Iron Skillet did seem more ambiguous because it was a lot of we have to keep our season ticket holders in mind. Mm-hmm. And Craven put out a good speculation.
That's what always the head coaches are thinking about.
Right, exactly. True. Yeah, he's got to be thinking about the season ticket holders, right? But Craven put out a good speculation. I'm kind of curious on what your guys' thoughts on this. He kind of he speculates that they're kind of saving room for a non-conference slate with Texas. Because when Texas leaves the non-conference schedule, TCU kind of loses that marquee losing Oklahoma for the whole conference, they lose that marquee Texas and Oklahoma game, right? And they kind of need to backload now their non-conference schedule because if the playoff wants to if they want to make a run like last year, right? They kind of need those signature marquee wins. If you take Texas and Oklahoma, I know Oklahoma wasn't very good last year, but Texas made their resume look a lot good better last year, right? Yep. If you take that win away, their non-conference schedule is Colorado. It's starting to look a little dry, and even if we think SMU has a chance to be one of the better Power 5 or Group of 5 schools in going forward in the country, it still may not be enough for a TCU, in their eyes, to maybe stamp themselves the way that Tech's scheduling Oregon right now, right? Maybe TCU starts looking at it that way. I'm curious about your thoughts on that. I don't know if it's Texas necessarily, but I do think this is a non-conference scheduling move by them.
I think it is too, but the thing with TCU is they have a Power 5, Group of 5 FCS breakdown usually.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that we're going to get rid of SMU because they're G5, you better be getting rid of that FCS game. Like, that's just my opinion. Like, I am the number one anti-P5 FCS matchups. Sure. I think the SEC Week 10 game where they all just say, hey, we're all going to take the week off and just smoke some FCS teams is the worst thing for college football. I just feel that if you're now a Power 5 team and there's a 12-team playoff now, you have room for an SMU team that could be one of the better Group of 5 teams going forward and then have 2 Power 5 games as well with that. There is room to fluctuate because there's no way they're going 3 straight Power 5 games.
Oh, no, absolutely.
They're not doing that. So you're going to tell me SMU isn't good enough competition, but we need that scrimmage game against the FCS, and then we're going to have like just 2 powerhouse Power 5 teams? I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that looking at their non-conference this year, so their non-conference is Colorado, of course, to open the season. Nichols, which of course you can shake your head at, and then SMU is their non-conference. Next year, they have SMU and they have Stanford are their 2 non-conference games. Now, you could argue, yeah, that's probably not good enough to really make some waves, right? They probably would need to add. At least right now, they don't have an FCS game, and I presume they won't. But there's that non-conference schedule is kind of whatever. In 2025, North Carolina, Abilene Christian, SMU. So again, that'll be the last Iron Skillet. So I'm kind of with you on that, where if you're TCU, then yeah, are you just saying, are you going to are you just going to stock up on Power 5? Like, even if it's a weak Power 5.
What are you going to do instead?
It's still a Power 5, right? It's still like, even if they schedule Rutgers or whatever, that's still a Power 5 team that you got to get up for, right? And that's like, there is a thing about playing, in my opinion, I think you should schedule in 3 levels, right? I think you should maybe schedule a team like, to me, ideally, you schedule an FCS team, because that's one, it gives them money, right? Obviously, some FCS teams need money like that. It gives you a chance to really see your team against another team that they can beat really handily, get the guys playing against another color. You schedule somebody of your caliber, right? Let's say what Tech is or I'm trying to think of Tech and Houston for the past couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. I think those are 2 similar caliber teams. Or you schedule what Tech does with Oregon, maybe a team that's just out of your reach, that you can punch up against, that they can also look at and look at you as a resume builder, and that's a good matchup, neutral matchup, things like that. I think that should be the 3, to me. Whether or not you agree with that, I don't know. But I think that puts now TCU in the category of, are you just going to schedule 3 teams that are of your caliber? Because that also is like, unless you're Alabama, that's kind of a kind of making your own bed right there. I don't know.
It feels like SMU is like a perfect middle ground game.
No, sure, it does. It theoretically would. And
also, are we forgetting that SMU beat TCU?
No,
like
that's
2 years ago?
That's the other thing from the SMU.
I don't understand how that's a valid argument for TCU, because SMU beat them a couple years now. Last year was
now
a
they
can.
Now they can say, right. I'm not disagreeing with you. Of course, like,
I just think that the argument is dumb.
Right? No.
Like
no,
to be quite frank,
I get it. No, this is what I'm saying. This is what TCU could say about it, right?
Right.
This is what it's a similar thing to what Texas and Oklahoma could say about the Big 12. We're better than the Big 12, so we're going to leave. And it's like, we'll have Texas won it's like the argument versus the reality, right? TCU could say, we're better than playing SMU right now because we need to play bigger teams. SMU can say, we've beaten you 2 out of the last 3 years and you're not better than us. But it doesn't change the fact that that's going to be the argument going forward.
It just feels like that's the problem with college football in general is everyone thinking they're better than everyone else. Yeah. And it's just like a status social climb that the college football is turned into.
Yeah.
And it stinks because TCU SMU, you're talking about a game that's been played since 1915. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a game where the schools are 35 miles apart. And look, we can talk about Texas is the best high school football state. DFW as an area in Texas is arguably the best area of Texas in high school football. And you're the 2 colleges there that are playing each other.
I mean, you've had players, who was it, Robertson that mentioned nobody goes to when some people talk about DFW, nobody goes to Fort Worth, and it's there's an animosity.
Yeah, there's animosity. Not to mention the student body is the same.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
literally the same demographic.
Well, and it's fun because they each have a ton of recruits that come to each game too. That Iron Skillet game, they both have a ton of recruits that they're trying to grab from the DFW area, and they're competing against.
A lot of SMU fans are pointing to 2020 when TCU pulled out of the Skillet game, citing, they were like, TCU, again, the argument was COVID, right? Oh, we're not going to play them because of COVID. But everybody saw how a bunch of games were just happening, and they were finding ways to make games happen, regardless of COVID that year. And TCU was like, we don't want to do that game. And of course, that was in the midst of when SMU was with Sonny Dykes and ahead of TCU at the time. So again, we'll see, right? This is I will say, from reading Billy Embody's piece and reading Craven and McMurphy and the way they phrased it, it does seem like it's more on the TCU end of things. Right. Why this is being put on pause.
I was reading Chris Vanini from The Athletic, and it was the exact same thing because he cited Rhett Lashley at coaching school.
Yeah,
was talking about we'll play this game all the time. I see no reason why it should stop. And then Sonny Dykes' quote was like, let's think about this.
Right.
Nick Saban's win versus Texas last year was his second non-conference win in his tenure. Think about that. And then it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, again, it's very political. It's very political, and you're just like, was this told to you by, let's say, Donati, right? And was it told to you that, hey, we're not playing him anymore? And he's like, well, dang, I can't throw him under the bus necessarily, and also I can't speak bad on SMU because I used to be there, and he still has some affinity for SMU, so it has to be kind of like I'm not going to really talk about it in that context, and so I'm going to kind of talk around the subject.
College football coaches are the biggest. I'm in my locker room.
Yes.
I control what I can control. I focus on my team. As soon as they're like, I'm really thinking about my season ticket holders right here. It's like, that's not you talking.
That's not.
Who is this?
Yeah, exactly. No, I 100% agree. We got this year and we got next year, which, again, it's kind of a shame because it's ending, but because it seems like we're getting to a really good era with both programs, right? Obviously with TCU, but SMU looks like they have a team that could really, really on the field match up man to man in the trenches with TCU, with Big 12 teams, and we're probably on the end of that. So we'll see. Again, 2025, we'll see if when it's officially set in stone, it won't, college football is weird. We saw during COVID how these games could be brought up and could be played with within a month of each other and organized and all that. So I don't know, but it does seem pretty adamant that this is the thing.
This realignment stuff, we talk about how much we don't like it. It's taking the regionality out of college football. Yeah. And the whole time I've been like, I get it. Yeah. I don't like it, but I get it.
Sure, I get it.
This one I don't get.
No,
I don't get it.
100%. All right, so we'll keep more tabs on that as more news develops. By the way, we do have a commitment coming up on TexasFootball.com. I want to do a quick plug for this. Clear Springs 2024 tackle Blake Ivy. Sorry, it might be a guard. I can't remember. Saturday at 10 a.m. Texan Live. He will, and DCTF as well. Will be deciding between Texas A&M, and LSU. Credit to Greg Powers. Credit to Greg Powers again for getting that. It's going to be a huge battle between those SEC and future SEC teams. Be sure to tune in for that if you are a fan of those or a Clear Springs fan or just curious about recruiting. All right, I mentioned a little bit about camp talk. Usually camp season's kind of boring, right? It's a bunch of people playing two-hand touch with teammates, and that's kind of it. But then you can kind of look at the depth chart and kind of see when the scrimmages start to happen. You can say, okay, what's kind of taking shape here? I'm going to take you through 3 teams right now that, at least for me, I don't know if I'm concerned, but my eyebrows are raising because they have not really even hinted at a starting quarterback yet. With the likes of, we know JC Daniels came in for Rice. He was at media day. He's going to start, right? I don't think they've named him QB1. He's going to start. He was at media day.
Yes.
Look at the likes of, let's look at Houston, North Texas, and Texas State in particular. Texas State brought in Malik Hornsby, and then TJ Finley's come in. From everything I've heard and from everything I've read, it's pretty neck and neck. North Texas brought in Chandler Rogers. That was their big transfer signing. From everything I've heard, from everything I've read, it may be a three-way battle. And Carter, you were at camp, so I can let you elaborate on that as well, between Chandler Rogers, Stone Earl, and Jace Ruder. And then with Houston, Joseph Duarte tweeted out that it's pretty neck and neck between Donovan Smith, their big transfer, and
Lucas Coley.
Lucas Coley, thank you. Lucas Coley. Should we be concerned between those three programs that all three brought in a premier transfer quarterback to theoretically be the guy? Is it a positive thing? Is the depth there? Or is there maybe some of these guys may not have been as good as we thought?
Okay, so let's take it one by one. Which one do we want to talk about?
I'll start with you in North Texas because you were there at camp.
Okay. So my impression from camp is Eric Morris, the last media availability I went to, when they asked about the quarterbacks, the name he said, look, I've been very impressed with how all of them have competed. I think they have all handled their business well. Every player has said they're all leaders. They've all done everything right. But there was one name he brought up as like someone who's made positive improvements in the fall, specifically in accuracy, and that's Stone Earl. So here's my thoughts on the North Texas battle. When Chandler Rogers came in, everyone was saying it's a two-man battle between Jace Ruder and Chandler Rogers for the most part. And Eric Morris at American Athletic Conference Media Days was very clear it's a three-man battle. It's a three-man battle. And now we're going into fall camp, and he's mentioning Stone Earl coming in too. I think Eric Morris just really wants competition at the quarterback spot. And everyone I talked to at UNT said they just need to figure out a quarterback. But then you talk to the media, and it's like it has to be Chandler Rogers.
Right.
Like we were talking earlier this week, and you're like, you bring in Chandler Rogers, the fans want to be Chandler Rogers, and it kind of needs to be Chandler Rogers because Stone Earl
why they brought him in,
and Jace Ruder have been proven guys at North Texas and both very good football players, but Chandler Rogers gives you a dynamic situation there that you haven't had at North Texas.
Exactly.
So if I was a betting man right now, I would say Chandler Rogers is going to start, and this is Eric Morris sending messages to his quarterbacks that it's still three guys. Like, that's why he keeps bringing up Stone Earl.
Sure.
That's what I would say. I'm not really concerned about it right now.
Part of me, and I do want your thoughts on this as well, Mallory, part of me wants to believe that it's smoke because the one guy he has not mentioned a lot is Chandler Rogers, right? You go back to the spring, he talked about Jace Ruder a lot. And it's, I don't know, to me it seems like I'm not going to mention the guy that everybody wants to start.
Yeah, because we were sitting at the Texas Rangers game on Monday night or something. We were scrolling through Twitter, and everything that we saw from camp or from the North Texas side was all about Stone Earl. So I guess it kind of in a way seems like maybe you are right. Maybe Eric Morris does want that three-way competition. He doesn't want the fans to be all in on one guy. But I don't know. I feel like it is a little bit cause of concern because, Chandler Rogers was brought in to bring a different dynamic. Like, he's very, versatile as a quarterback. And I think he was brought in to do something that Jace Ruder and Stone Earl can't do. And the fact that we now could be resorting back to a Stone Earl or even a Jace Ruder because he was there before, it is a little concerning.
Yeah, I would say so. Jace Ruder, of course, has played. He's taken college snaps.
He's taken
a
couple of
Stone
snaps.
Earl took college. He was at ACU, I believe.
ACU, I believe.
So, but neither of them to me, and maybe this is a product of where he came from. Like, that's why I think Chandler Rogers was intriguing to people because he came from a bad ULM team where he was the only person that put up any numbers. Right? You look at those ULM teams. They weren't very good. They weren't very talented, but he put up good numbers in a bad offense, in a bad team that wasn't very talented. And I think that's what everybody, when he entered the transfer portal, that's what had everybody intrigued. You're like, oh, man, when the talent around him gets elevated, what is his numbers going to look like? And I don't want to say that he's all of a sudden gotten bad or whatever. That's kind of the only reason I'm still holding on to what he's produced so far, like in college at ULM, as to why I just feel like he has to be the guy. And that's why I guess I'm leaning too much into the fact that Morris hasn't said anything about him.
Yeah.
But that's why we talk about fall camp.
Yeah.
Guys playing two-hand touch. Chandler Rogers is the guy that you don't get everything.
Sure.
You don't see everything you're getting with him until
you can't touch him.
up.
You can't touch him. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
He is such a dynamic runner and an athlete that, like, okay, if we're just sitting back playing 7-on-7 throwing the ball, then yeah, maybe it looks really close. But I tell you, if you line them all up to like run the football, Chandler Rogers is winning that every time.
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
100%. Let's get a little bit to Texas State now, because I think this is another similar-ish matchup. In terms of a guy who maybe isn't the best in camp settings, right? Malik Hornsby versus TJ Finley. Now, when you look at both of them coming out of high school, both highly touted recruits, right? One goes to Arkansas, one goes to LSU originally, then he went to Auburn in Finley. Finley has the very stereotypical build, right? He's huge, he's gigantic, has an arm, he doesn't really move that much.
6'7".
Yeah, he's 6'7". He's a big boy. He might be the tallest player on the team, actually. Malik Hornsby, very track-esque, very modern quarterback, right? Kind of can throw the ball, not really the most accurate, but get him out of the pocket, can make a play happen. There's a reason why Nebraska was courting him at wide receiver. You look at all of his Arkansas, every time he came in for Arkansas, like the most impressive plays you'll see from LSU's Harold Perkins are the ones where he hunts down Malik Hornsby, because everyone acknowledges how fast Hornsby is. And they're like, look how fast Harold Perkins is, because he can hunt him down in the open field. So two different type of players.
Which that won't happen in the Sun Belt.
Oh, no. So I was about to say, yeah, there are very few. There are no, I'll put this out there. There are no Harold Perkins in the Sun Belt, as opposed to I was going to say very few. So this one I'm not as concerned about, because Hornsby, he played it sparingly at Arkansas, right? Finley, I don't think he was that great when he played, but when you bring him maybe down a level to the Sun Belt, maybe that is the level he was meant to play at. I still would pencil in Hornsby, but the more it's gone on and the way G.J. Kinney's talked about it, I would not be shocked if we saw both of them through like 3 weeks of the year, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, okay. Ish, you might need to cover your ears for this one, because I am concerned about this one.
Go for it. I mean, again, TJ Finley was not good when he played. I'll put it that way.
The reason I'm concerned is because you bring in Malik Hornsby, you go all through spring ball, and then you bring in TJ Finley in the summer after spring ball.
Sure.
That's not the biggest vote of confidence, I think, for Malik Hornsby. And another guy, yes, you don't really see all he can do until you get him in a game situation. I think either TJ Finley or Malik Hornsby will be fine when they play, but Texas State's in a precariously close to going with a 2-quarterback system,
and I'm not a fan of
which
that.
I'm a hater of. If you're going to find a hater of a 2 QB system, it's me.
Well, also, I also hate when you have two quarterbacks who are vastly different.
Yeah.
Right. I think it'd be one thing if it was
not like
these
the Ravens that have 3 Lamar Jacksons like on their roster.
Yeah, right. It's like
when one quarterback gets in, you know exactly what's going to happen, right? When
you have to change up the offense, you got to change up.
Exactly.
Like Hornsby doesn't have as strong of an arm as Finley, so receives. It's one thing to like these two guys are equal footing. We can run the same system. Whoever runs it better wins out, right? If they both play through 2 weeks, one of them is going to outplay the other in the same system, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, you're going to be running 2 different things, 2 different times. Whoever shows better in that respective system it's very weird. I agree. The only time it's literally ever worked, and everybody's tried it since, was when Florida won the national title, because it worked that one time with Tim Tebow and Chris Leak. You had a running quarterback who ran power, and then you had a pocket passer who could not run.
Right.
That's the only time it's ever worked, but everybody cites that as like the reason why it can work. And it's like that's the exception.
Yes,
that's not the rule.
Yeah.
Every other time a team's tried it, anywhere else, it has not worked. So I agree. I'm very worried that's the way I'm worried. I'm not worried. I think
I was about to say, did I just convince you?
Right.
Did I just bring you over to the dark side?
I will say, I'm not worried in the fact that I think either one I think will be fine, right? Whoever gets the starting job will be fine. I am worried about the fact that what are those 3 games going to look like before they figure that out, right? That's where I'm concerned. I'm not concerned in terms of skill level. I think both of them, whatever style of offense they decide to run, sure. I do worry if it is Finley that Hornsby will look to leave, because, again, he thought he was coming here to be the guy, right? That's why he chose Texas State over Nebraska, because they wanted him to be a wide receiver. He's like, no, Texas State says I'm going to be quarterback. Well, I'm pretty sure he wants to be a starting quarterback and not a backup quarterback. So
probably.
Yeah. So, again, I think they're both talented in in their own ways and will be fine when eventually a starter is had. But if they do run with a multiple for the first couple weeks, that's where I'm worried.
Well, it must be tough for y'all. Your alma maters are in QB battles right now. I'm sitting here, and we've got a proven guy in Quinn Ewers.
Listen, let's talk in October. Let's talk in October when the pitchforks come out after that first 3 interception game.
Yeah.
I can see nowhere where this gets dicey.
You can see no possible way with that Arch
Quinn
Manning.
Ewers is the guy. He's always the guy. Yeah.
I did like that they put out the Manning watch list.
I was just
graphic.
about to say that.
And it's Ewers, of course, but there's a big Manning behind him, and it's like, oh man, even on the graphics, Manning's overshadowing Quinn Ewers.
Yes, this will go super smooth.
This will go super smooth. There will be no controversy in Texas at all this year. All right, let's get to the one that I am very worried about.
Yeah. If we're on like not worried, very worried. Here we go.
So let's go. Houston. They also brought in a transfer quarterback in Donovan Smith from Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. Theoretically, we were like, okay, sure, that's their guy. They're going to roll with him. And Lucas Coley, who I like.
Friday Night Tykes legend.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was on Friday Night Tykes back in the day. San Antonio Outlaws.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Oh, my God, you're right. Yeah. Jeez.
That's
okay.
funny.
So, apparently they're neck and neck. And here's why I'm worried about this, right? I think Coley was a fine prospect coming out of high school. I think Cornerstone Christian out of San Antonio. Here's why I'm concerned is because I don't know if Donovan – I was always side-eyeing when they brought in Donovan Smith. I thought Donovan Smith was an okay quarterback for what Tech needed him to do. Their offensive line sucked last year, and they needed somebody who just could move, right? Mm-hmm. Who just could move the ball when the line breaks down, which is what he did, right? They literally beat Texas with him running for his life every single play. Like there was no play where he just stood back and he was like, "I am perfectly fine." Mm-hmm. Every single time. That was if Baron Morton, Tyler Shuck are back there, they probably lose that game. Here's the issue. He's probably like a very okay quarterback. Mm-hmm. And they bet their whole season on getting that very okay quarterback. Any other year, Houston probably can make that work. But guess what? He's going back to the Big 12, where he proved that he couldn't take care of the ball, that he kind of needs to move around because when he is just sitting around the pocket, he's not really that accurate of a thrower. And the options are now him or a guy who has not thrown really any significant passes in college. That's where I'm worried because now you get to a point where either answer, I'm kind of like, sure, right? It'd be one thing if like Donovan Smith blows him out of the water, boom. Or if Lucas Coley blows him out of the water, you're like, hey, look, maybe there's something to this Lucas Coley kid. The fact that they're both
neither of them are
right. The fact that they're both kind of like, I don't know which one's gonna start. It's like that's a problem right now.
It's not great that you lost Clayton Tune, who's arguably one of the better quarterbacks in school history. You lose Tank Dell to the NFL, and now you're like,
we need a quarterback.
Yeah.
This is the one I'm least versed on.
Sure.
I will say, I just don't know how Lucas Coley is as a player.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing. Like, he's so unproven.
Yeah,
so unproven as a college commodity.
And my experience with Donovan Smith is him converting 6 fourth downs against Texas last year. So
again,
I think Donovan Smith is great. I think he's awesome. I don't know what Ish was talking about.
He's Michael Vick.
That guy. I mean, you want to talk about playmaker?
Yeah,
Donovan Smith.
Why is it not him?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on down there in Houston. This guy's amazing. I don't know
what's happening here.
It should win the Big 12.
I'm very concerned.
No, I am. So let's bring back that game.
Do we have
Texas.
to?
We don't have to live through it. That was literally one of 2 games where he did not throw a pick. He did not throw a pick against Texas.
He was surgical.
And the games that he started, that was the only game he did not throw a pick.
Oh, nice.
So every other game he started, 3 picks against Houston, 2 picks against NC State, 2 picks against Kansas State, and then he I think Baron Morton and Shuck were healthy around then.
So that's the secret sauce. Start him, and he won't throw any turnovers.
No. That's the problem. No, you don't start him. You don't start him. Yeah.
In games that he didn't start. Oh, okay. I got that backwards.
I'm
sorry.
So you don't start him, and then he won't throw any.
Okay. I got that backwards. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. So that's the secret sauce.
He ended with 12 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, 66% completion, 1,500 yards. So again. And that's an offense that would have been more than happy to keep throwing the ball if he was good at it, right?
Well, the thing with that is there are not very many teams in the FBS that can get by with their quarterback averaging 2 interceptions a game.
Right.
And Houston's not one of them either.
Exactly.
Houston is going to need the offense to not replicate what Tune and Dell did last year.
Exactly.
but maybe do 70%.
70
of what they did. The defense
right?
will be better, but the defense was atrocious.
I was about to say it has to
year.
be like statistically, it just has to get better. Just because like it almost can't get worse, right?
Yeah.
Knock on wood. It like very likely can't get worse. But I agree, because you lose a Tank Dell, because of course we know they lost Alton McCaskill to the transfer portal. Unfortunate. That just makes the quarterback that much more crucial to what they need to do. And if you listen to this podcast, you know that me and Craven are very cynical on what Houston could do this year in the Big 12, right? It's a tough schedule. They drew the tough end of the stick. It's a rebuild especially on offense, like you mentioned. Defense should be okay. But that's what made betting everything on Donovan Smith a little bit concerning, right?
Yep.
Because now, as we're saying, it may not be the gamble that pays off for them. And they have to go with a guy who did not necessarily make a lot of waves. Like, Clayton Tune was one of the better quarterbacks, but there was a moment where we looked at Clayton Tune in his career, and we said, is this the guy for Houston?
Yeah.
Right? And but they kept playing him because there was no one else, right? It was Logan Holgerson was like the other quarterback, and then no one else was in like the vicinity. Obviously, Tune turned it around his senior year, ended up, or second, I can't remember exactly if he's a senior or not, but senior year, regardless, turned it around, ended his career great. But the fact that we were still like, I guess we're going to roll out Clayton Tune again, to me, it shows the depth of the position wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And if Coley's made a surge, credit to him. But I think it may be more of Smith maybe not being the guy that they want him to be.
I do remember a team, though, that brought in a transfer quarterback to compete with the incumbent, and the incumbent ended up starting the year and going on to finish second in the Heisman Trophy voting. That was Max Duggan last year at TCU.
Not bad. Not a bad pull.
So,
there you go.
Not a bad pull.
There you go.
Not about that's not, yeah, maybe because
think about that.
There is something to competition. Oh, I will say Donovan Smith's not going to New York, but I get what you're saying. No, there is something to competition, right? Something to, is there another level to any of these guys? And this is any of the teams, not just Houston. Is there another level to any of these guys that gets unlocked in competition, right? That's the coach. That's the old coach adage saying, right? Competition breeds character, all that kind of stuff. Like, is there somebody whose skill, if with UNT, is Stoner all right? Did he come into UNT not thinking he was going to start and whatever? Is there something to being told that it's a three-man battle for the job that brings another level out, right? Does somebody else wither in the face of competition, right? When it's like, oh, I thought I was getting the starting job. I'm going to go down a bit. We're seeing at Texas, apparently Quinn Ewers is rising to the occasion, right? They bring in five-star Arch Manning. All of a sudden, Quinn Ewers, you see him fitting these balls in the tight window.
Yeah, did you see that throw? Did you see that ball placement?
That was a good throw.
I know you saw that one.
It was on Twitter. I couldn't stop seeing it according to my Twitter account. But like somebody like Quinn Ewers now has big expectations because he looks really good. So we'll see exactly where all these battles go, but these are the three that, in my opinion, are going to be the biggest because I think these three teams have the most hinging at a quarterback battle panning out. Now, obviously, a team like Texas, a lot hinges on Ewers, but we know it's going to be Ewers. If it's not, they'll yank him. It'll be Manning. But for the most part, I would say there's an 80% chance that Ewers finishes out the year there, right? There are some teams with question marks, these three teams at quarterback, and there's some teams with like quotation, I'm doing quotation marks, question marks at quarterback, which is like a Tech. We know Baron Morton's going to be the guy. There is maybe a chance that he gets pulled at some point if he plays atrociously, but we kind of know it's going to be the guy until not. So. Well,
the thing, and the other problem with these quarterback battles is whoever wins it's going to have a short leash too.
Oh, sure, yeah, exactly.
When they go out there,
it's going to be it's going to be they're going to be named the starter week 1.
Going to be real prevalent.
Yeah, they're going to be named the starter week 1. And then, like, they go throw a pick on their first drive. We're going to see the next quarterback in, like, the
you're
next
pulling them
drive.
right that next play, yeah.
That's going to be, yeah. So I will just say, watch out for these three teams as we head into week 0, and week 1. All right, before we get to our main topic, which is the power poll, Mallory, it's hot outside.
Correct.
It's not as hot today, actually. It's dropped below triple digits
for
the first time in like 700 days.
I had to grab my sweater today because it was 98 degrees. It was
a little chilly outside.
It was a little chilly.
It was a little chilly outside. But, of course, with hot weather, you would want some nice apparel that fits the summer mood. What if I said there was a clothing company that did provide that nice, loose-fitting, and durable apparel? Home Field Apparel. Use promo code DCTF to get 15% off your first-time purchase. Home Field Apparel just dropped in my opinion, one of their better drops in Oregon a couple weeks ago. Mallory, one that's very relevant to you, a new Michigan State drop.
No way.
Yeah.
I gotta go check it out.
Stuff looks really good. I mean, look, they're dropping new stuff every week. They're dropping updates every week. With the season approaching, they do their big noon Saturday drops, or big news Saturday drops, I think is what they call it. And again, you're not going to find any better vintage retro apparel that really, really, really honors schools' legacies. They collaborate with the school to make sure they have the right imagery, to make sure that they're involved with tradition, and they fit. And they make sure that they're honoring the school in the best way possible. I'm not a golf guy, but Michigan State dropped a golf shirt that looks awesome.
No way.
It's a golfing Spartan.
Oh,
and it's really good.
So
it's
cool.
really good. They have one about the 88. There's an 88 Rose Bowl team that has a nice rose on it. Those are the kind of things, right? You're not just going to get stuff from the past 10 years. They're going to go before that. They're going to go to the 60s, 50s. You win a championship in the 40s. They'll have a shirt for that. Go check out homefieldapparel.com, promo code DCTF, or if you support any of our other podcasts as well on the Republican Football Network, they each have a promo code. Please go check them out. I believe the newest schools from Texas were UTEP, which was an incredible drop. I think they had a minor Magic shirt, and I think they also had a Texas Western throwback national title shirt, and then a Picks Up basketball shirt, which is Pete dunking the ball, which I loved personally. So, homefieldapparel.com, promo code DCTF. All right, let's get to our big discussion, the Power Poll. Every week, we update this on textfootball.com. Go check out Craven's piece on the first ever Power Poll. And I asked you guys to come up with some teams that you think could rise or fall. And I mean like rocket ship up or plummet by the end of the year. Carter, I want you to give me one team that you think is ranked pretty high right now that you think by the end of the year, you're like, dang, we missed on them.
So wait, a hot team, I think.
A team that could
whose stock
ranked,
I'm shorting.
That's by the end of the year. I want to say stock you're shorting. Like this team is gonna be bad, but you wouldn't be shocked to see them near the bottom.
Should we throw up the Power Poll first?
Yes,
sure.
Let's do the Power
Poll
first.
Let's do it.
Bam.
All right. So this is for our video listeners. If you're an audio listener, please go check out the article so you can get the full ranking of it. If you're watching on video, it is on your screen right now. Carter, what do you got?
My team that I think is ranked a little high right now, who I could see falling, is Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. Right now with Texas Tech, the vibes are very high.
Yes.
Okay, but they were 8-5 last year, which is a great year for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, they beat Texas and Oklahoma, and they won a bowl game for the first time since like 2013 or 2009, somewhere around there. But the vibes that they've had, you'd think they went like 10-2.
Sure.
Almost.
I get it.
Right now, they have a feeling for me of like a March Madness 5 seed that everyone is telling me is going to probably win it all.
I like that.
And then they end up getting upset by the 12th seed in round 1. And you're like, what? But CBS and
Ken
March
Palm
Madness.
loved it. Yeah.
Ken Palm, their Ken Palm ranking was so high.
Yeah.
That's what they kind of feel like for me. And the biggest problems areas I see is the offensive line.
Sure.
They went through 3 quarterbacks last year. They averaged 3.9 yards a carry. They were 112th in the nation in sacks allowed. And Tyler Shuck, for as good as he is and as prototypical of a QB build he has not stayed healthy in his career.
Sure.
Now, you've got Baron Morton back up, so if Shuck does unfortunately have to miss some time, Baron Morton can come in and is a proven guy.
Yep.
But Shuck, I think they're only going to go as far as he takes them this year. And now they're relying on guys like Rusty Stats and Cole Spencer to come in and shore up that offensive line. They're flipping guys all around, but Rusty Stats and Cole Spencer, they might be very good. They did come from Western Kentucky. No knock on Western Kentucky, but this is a big step up in Big 12 ball. So they are unproven right now. And then I know Joey McGuire said at Big 12 Media Days that he likes this defensive line room more this year, but they did lose Tyree Wilson.
I was about to say that they can talk about. I love a lot of the guys. I love Jalen Hutchings, right? But you lost Tyree Wilson.
You did lose Tyree Wilson.
Generational guy.
A generational guy who was the 7th overall
Texas
pick.
Tech. Yeah.
Texas Tech, vibes very high. I could see this season falling a little flat.
I agree with that because now again, pen to paper, I think they will be closer to the 8 win mark that they were last year, but that's because again we're kind of seeing the things on the field. We're seeing the acquisitions they made. We're seeing how they were when they were healthy last year, and we're kind of like, okay, yeah, we expect them to take a little step forward, right? Why that could combust is exactly what you're saying. A lot hinges on Tyler Shuck being healthy. And again, sure, yeah, Baron Morton played great last year when he had to come in and spell. But from what we've seen, Joey Maguire trusts Tyler Shuck first, right? He was the guy that was going to be the starter last year. He was the guy that was named the starter this year. And when he came in, he played well. My concern to me is the ceiling of Texas Tech with Tyler Shuck, right? I think Tyler Shuck is the most stable quarterback they have, if that makes sense. I think he's somebody who has the prototypical tool. He can move a little bit, right? He's not necessarily a runner, but he can move a little bit, and he can make it happen if he needs to. He was a pro prospect for a reason coming out of Oregon, or when he was his first year heading into Oregon, I should say. But when Baron Morton came in, I think he just showed a little bit more arm, right? I don't think experience is there. That's the one thing. I don't think his prep is there. A lot of intangibles aren't there yet, veteran experience, things like that. But physically, I'm curious about what the ceiling is with Tech under Tyler Shuck. I think a lot of pressure's on Taj Brooks, right? You lose Roderick Thompson. He's going to be now getting most of the carries. Does he necessarily fit that style of offense to get the bulk of the carries, right? Roderick Thompson was a different type of running back than Taj Brooks. Taj Brooks is a little bit of a bowling ball, right? In a good way. Zach Kitley likes to throw the ball a ton, and he probably likes a running back who can receive a little bit, right? Is that going to meld exactly? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that defense. I like the defense. It's no longer the insult to defense that Cliff Kingsbury's teams were, but that's still, if you're asking them to be a dark horse Big 12 team, they have to become a above average defense, in my opinion, because they're going to be facing guys like Quinn Ewers, offenses like TCU's now. They're going to be facing, even though we just got finished ripping them, Dana Holgorsen knows how to queue up an offense if they get that quarterback position figured out. Week in, week out, Oklahoma, right? Week in, week out, they're going to have to face some pretty good offenses. So I agree that Tech is the team that I would not be shocked with. Again, we're buying. Check out the magazine. We're buying the hype. I projected them high.
But how many times do you have to be told you're a dark horse before you're not a dark horse?
Sure, that's fair. Well, here's to your point. If the AP ranking went to 30, they'd be 26, right? They received 101 votes. They're the next team out above Iowa, just behind Iowa in the top 25 AP poll. So so to your credit, people are buying in on them, right? In terms of like, teams watch out for this team, and it's like, are they underrated? If everybody's saying that they're underrated, it's kind of like that duality a little bit. So, yeah, I don't know. Tech is a little bit of a team to kind of keep your pulse on, I would say, because I think now they know there's pressure going on in Lubbock. Mm-hmm. I will say for my team. And this one's kind of obvious. A&M at 4.
Yep, that was mine. That was mine.
me and you can talk about this.
Easy.
This team could very much be right here, maybe pushing to 2, and they could also be 12.
That's my thing. Looking at this power poll, like Texas A&M is either going to finish in the top 3, or they're going to finish the bottom 3. Yeah. I don't think there's any 7, 8, 6 talk with them.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna either blow this season out of the water because they kind of have to in terms of recruiting and the new moves to the SEC, or they're just gonna tank this season.
This if there was one team that I'd pick for the biggest variance, to use that word, it's A&M.
Yeah.
Right? It could, like you mentioned, I think it's either or. I don't think they finish 6th or 7th in the power poll. No. I think it's either all or nothing because they took the gamble with Bobby Petrino, and go check out Craven's piece on when Bobby Petrino finally got to talk to the media. Universally, it was like,
they have a real offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but universally it was like, why wasn't he allowed to talk? It seems fine. Everything kind of seems fine. And if everything is fine, then you maybe unlock a new level to Connor Wigman. Mm-hmm. Evan Stewart turns into like a first-round wide receiver potentially, and everything's great. And they probably hover around 9 to 10. Oh my gosh, A&M, look at this. And if it doesn't, we're looking at last year and we're saying, oh my God, they have 4 wins in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of funny how Craven's piece, I loved it because all offseason everyone's like, hey, Jimbo, is Bobby Petrino going to call plays? And Jimbo's like, if we run the offense, I am the head coach. And Bobby is the offensive coordinator.
Right.
We will run an offense this year.
And it's like needlessly like what's the word I'm looking for? Like coded.
Yes.
Almost. And you're like, what are you talking about?
So when Bobby Petrino came on, and it kind of put a lot of people's worries to the side for a bit.
Right.
I agree they don't finish 6th or 7th in the power poll by the end of the season because I think they finish top 2.
You think so?
I am buying in on Texas A&M right now. I think for all the weird stuff that comes with Bobby Petrino, he knows how to call
damn offense, man.
He knows how to call an offense, and you just go down their roster. They're one of the most talented teams in Texas. They're rivaling Texas Longhorns right now for the most talented team in Texas. They got Connor Wigman, who should be the guy. He looked very good last year. The center, Bryce Foster, was a freshman All-American and then was not healthy at all last year.
Right.
That was kind of a lost season for him. They returned the top 3 receivers in Evan Stewart, Moose Muhammad, and Aniyah Smith.
And Evan Stewart might be probably the most talented player in Texas.
That's a good point.
Like top 3 player.
And then another reason the vibes were so low at Texas A&M was that they lost like 27 transfers.
Right.
And a lot of it was from their class of 2022, which was the
big
number 1
one.
rated class. But we look at where those guys went.
I was about to say,
and Smoke Bowie kicked off Georgia. Chris Marshall kicked off Ole Miss. Denver Harris suspended at LSU for fighting. Like, was it addition by subtraction?
Right.
Are the vibes actually better because all those guys kind of left? I mean, it's fair to ask that question now.
I think so.
And I mean, if you wanted to have like a list of just who's got the best prospects, like Texas A&M, like I said, they are up there. I mean, the defense, they got Bryce Anderson in the secondary. I love Josh DeBerry coming in from Boston College in the secondary as well. And then that defensive line, Shamar Turner, McKinley Jackson, Walter Nolan.
That's their shining unit there.
Yeah,
is that defensive line.
It's looking scary. So I had Texas A&M on teams I'm betting on to be much higher.
Okay. I like that.
I think we'll find out pretty soon with them too, because they kick off the season at New Mexico State, which is at home against New Mexico. New Mexico or New Mexico State?
New Mexico.
Which, by the way, I could see them winning that game 14-10.
See, that's my thing. If they win that 14-10, I'm back to being worried.
Yeah, right.
That was literally what happened last year with Sam. I think
Yes.
Sam Houston, Haynes King.
You're right.
Where Haynes King didn't look
First
that
game of the
great,
season.
and I was like, it's just early season rust.
No, my Aggies fans, we got to hold strong this year, okay? If they win 13-10, 14-10 against Mexico State, it's okay. They're going to hold strong. They're going to get it turned around. This team is too talented to fail.
Yeah, well then week 2 you go to Miami, so
We'll see.
that could be question
I'll say this.
question marks around that.
I wouldn't. To me, it would not shock me if they go into Bama 5-0. New Mexico at Miami, gonna be tough. ULM, Auburn, Arkansas. Right. Arkansas is gonna be tricky, but they always seem, no matter how bad they are, they always seem to play Arkansas tough.
Yeah, that game's always good.
And Miami, of course, we'll see about Miami. I'm still kind of questioning Miami a little bit too. I don't think Tyler Van Dyke's that good of a quarterback, but we'll see about those. Those are their only two. I mean, Auburn, we'll see what Auburn looks like under Hugh Freeze. I still think it's year 1. It'll be weird for them. It wouldn't shock me if they go into 5-0 and it's like, okay, if we look at 5-0 and then whether or not they're in for a humbling at Alabama or not, we'll see. But it would not shock me in a world where they're unbeaten and it's October and we're like, hey, what happened here? This is cool.
Look, Jimbo Fisher's taken some heat this offseason because he went 5-7 last year, and there's been weird stuff with how coded and he talks in riddles about Bobby Petrino, and then he misses coaching school, which was also a weird move.
That was very weird.
But the dude can coach some football. He's a damn good head coach. Sure. I mean, his overall record is still like 120-40 or something like that. I mean, so let's not go too far down the Jimbo Fisher's washed train. Let's get it this season. Let's see what happens.
I get it. No, I 100% get it. All right. You mentioned A&M was also one of your teams that could rise. Let's get to those teams. Is there any team on here? And I'll start off with mine. So for the people listening at home, the bottom teams, I'll start at 10. Rice, UTEP, Texas State, Sam Houston. I'm going to say right now, I think it's Sam Houston. I potentially think Sam Houston could be a really, really sleeping dark horse because a lot of people don't realize they redshirted a lot of guys last year.
They were playing with the second team all year.
They were playing with the second team because they knew, hey, guess what? Hey, they basically walked into the locker room and was like, hey, who wants to be here next year in the FBS? And they were like, yeah, I do. And it's like, cool, you're all not playing this year. And then they rolled out the guys that they had, and they still went 5-4, right? Which isn't a great record by SMU standards, but they probably would have competed in the Southland if they were still there last year at 5-4. And now they bring all those guys back, and this is still a team that was consistently one of the best FCS teams in college football. Playing in a Conference USA, that is not a murderer's row, if I have to be honest with you, right? We'll see what happens at quarterback. I thought it was weird that they brought Keegan Shoemake to Media Day when we kind of know Grant Gunnell is going to be vying for that. We'll see about that. Maybe that was, I don't know if that was more of a reward for Keegan Shoemake for being the guy the past couple years, and we'll see how fall plays out. But there's talent on that roster, and I still think that the preseason poll had them really low, I believe. I couldn't remember exactly where they were picked in the Conference USA poll. But again, these aren't monster. Like, this isn't last year's Conference USA that they're going against, right? Jacksonville State. It's going to be New Mexico State. It's teams that they can beat. Commerce is in there. I would not be surprised. I'm not saying top 3. I'm not saying, but they're bottom right now because more or less because of reputation. They're coming in.
This is where you got to start.
Right. This is where you got to start. But if we're talking and they're 6th, 5th, yeah, I could see it.
I love that pick. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, I kind of took the same approach with that, but I picked UTEP in that sense.
Okay.
Again, a new look Conference USA, it's very, very manageable. You know, we've talked about this over and over again on here before, but you've got your top, probably Liberty is up there, but then I think the rest, pretty fair game in that sense. Their schedule is super manageable. They play one Power 5 team in Northwestern, but they also, I think, bring back probably the most experienced quarterback in Conference USA.
That's a good point.
And that says a lot. Gavin Hardison, yeah, he is mistake prone, and we've seen it before, but he's a very experienced. He knows this offense really well.
He also gets his wide receiver back.
You get your wide receiver back. You bring in Deion Hankins as well at running back. I think this defense looks really good too. I wouldn't be surprised if UTEP could rise up a little bit and maybe hang around the 7, 8, 6 ranks as well.
I like that pick as well. I'm going to go a different route here and go American Athletic Conference and go Rice.
Really?
Whoa,
yes.
Okay.
And look, I know.
All right. I was about to.
I told you I was going to have the scorching hot takes today. And
Yeah.
this might be because I still think JT Daniels can be a dude. Be the guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Look, he's had 1 year that was disappointing in my eyes, and that's West Virginia. He goes to USC. Right. He's basically a senior in high school that starts at USC.
Right.
Did fairly good. Then he got injured, had to transfer out of there. He goes to Georgia. He looked great at Georgia until he got hurt. West Virginia's the only year we're like, okay, does he not have it anymore?
Yeah.
Let's hit the reset button. Let's go to Rice. You got Luke McCaffrey right there. And then also, I mean, I just saw Myron Morrison and Josh Piercy on the defensive side at Media Days, and they looked real good.
Yeah.
I mean, they passed the eye test for me.
That's very true. Not always the case at Rice.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, those guys walked in, they're just like huge and like in great shape. And I'm like, are these guys, is this Rice?
Yeah.
Like, are these guys like transfers in or
sure,
something like that?
Sure.
Like, no, they weren't at all. So I think Rice has a chance to shock some people. And also, like, I wrote a story about it. This is Bloomgren's guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
they
saw JT Daniels at a camp in 2015.
When he was at Stanford, or Bloomgren was at Stanford.
When Bloomgren was at Stanford, and JT Daniels in 9th grade. And, JT Daniels knew more about football than almost NFL quarterbacks when he was in 9th grade. So I think this could be a pick that comes back if we clip this and it's like Rice finished 3-9.
right.
Look, I'll egg on my face if that happens, but I'm gonna ride with Rice right now.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with Rice though.
Sure.
I think I have a strong feeling that teams are going to figure out pretty early on how to shut down that offense, and that's to double team Luke McCaffrey. Because who else in that offense does JT Daniels have? I mean, you have two wide receivers transferred out within the past month or so, right? You don't have much of a running game. So if you shut down Luke McCaffrey, you double team him, you triple team him, who else do they have? Can they put up points?
Yeah, they're gonna need somebody else step. They're gonna need the running game to work too.
Right.
The running game has not been there consistently, at least for the past couple of years. So there's some question marks certainly. But the one consistent thing that we've said they've always needed has been quarterback. So how much does that override? Right? Does that, like to your point, does that only make the other holes more prominent? Right? Mm-hmm. If JT Daniels has an off game and they can't run the ball either, is it back to same old Rice as we've seen the past couple of years where the defense it's also weird that we're not talking about the defense because I'm not worried about the defense. The defense has been the linchpin the past couple of years. They've won games despite the offense being awful. And so I don't think they'll be as great probably stepping up a level at the AAC where they're playing better teams more consistently. But I would say if I had to hinge one thing on if I had to hinge their good luck on one thing, it would be the defense, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Look, Mike Bloomgren, this is the year.
Oh, sure. This has to be the year.
This has to be the year. You got new athletic director here.
Very ambitious by what he said in the press conferences. So.
Yeah, check out that story too. Shameless plug here. But
there you go.
check out what Tommy McClellan, the new AD, said. He's very ambitious in his opening press conference. New athletic director. You finally got your quarterback. Mm-hmm. You're an offensive guy. This is your guy. You had an 8-year recruitment of
yes,
JT Daniels.
Very long game.
All right, this is the year. You got to make something happen here.
Yeah,
there you go.
I get it.
So there are our thoughts on the power poll. Again, go check that out on TexasFootball.com. Craven gave a good rundown of why he picked every team where he did. And weekly, we will be updating that once the season gets going. And, yeah, there are our thoughts on teams that we think will rise, will fall, potentially by the end of the year. And this is probably one of the years where I'm kind of a little, I don't want to say confused, but a little bit more open to what's going to happen, I think. There's nothing that's really nailed on. I guess the team with the most expectations is probably Texas, obviously. But even then, you're just like, because it's Texas, you're like,
Right.
Yeah,
is that
I'm
gonna
surprised
happen?
no one took the low-hanging fruit and just picked Texas.
Listen,
I was about
I was
to.
tempted, but I was like, I don't want to follow the train here.
Well,
like,
this is also
me.
go
All
off the
thought
tracks
that we're
here a
like, I
little
was like,
bit.
someone's gonna pick Texas.
This is also me knocking on wood, saying I still think their
just
their
too
disappointment
talented.
is like 6th still. Like that's just me. Maybe I'll knock on wood, but like that's me. It's like they disappoint, and I'm like, yeah, they finished 5th, even though they probably should have been 1st. And so it's like that's the expectation. Again, that could be awful, and they finished 8th, and we're talking. So anyway,
should I do an honorable mention real quick?
Really quick, 5 seconds.
Teams to rise: Baylor.
Yes.
They were 6th or 7th in that poll.
Yes.
Teams being much lower: TCU was 3rd.
I like that.
I think TCU could go lower.
Both very good picks. So that'll do it for us. Please, please, please like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to all the other, or listen to all the other podcasts on the Republic of Football Network. State of Dallas will be starting soon with Billy Embody doing SMU. We finally will have all 13 FBS programs on the Republic of Football. With that being said, we have talked to 12 of the 13 FBS head coaches in the state. Jimbo Fisher, please give us a call. And as usual, go Rutgers.
Go Rutgers.